Hey y'all, it's me, Naris. I haven't done one of these in a little bit. Um, I hope all of y'all are doing well and having a blessed day. A blessed day. I'm doing pretty good right now. The weather is pretty good. The sun's out. Um, I'm healthy. Angie's sleeping. I was just taking a nap earlier. I just finished doing laundry. Um, washing clothes and whatnot. Um, um, Within my journey, I had stopped by my old house and picked up some extra things because when I was on the road prior, I realized I didn't have enough socks. I had like two pairs of socks I was rotating, and I thought I picked up some more. So I was like, let me get these socks. And funny enough, since me picking up them socks, I haven't really needed it a lot because it's been hot. But I brought extra shoes, so I had like some like casual sandals to wear throughout the day. So, but I essentially picked up the things that I needed and just to carry me through the journey. It's the journey. Um I'm still here, here, here. Shout out to Tisha Campbell. Um a bop, a bop, a word. Yeah. It is the journey and I am still here. Very much so. Um anyway, so I had just finished doing laundry. Last week there was there's a lot of situations that could be infuriating. Last week was a particularly challenging one. Angie wasn't feeling well and and um threw up on some of my clothes. So um I had been like navigating that, but I was able to like get all of that stuff out. Um Yeah, I know this isn't like seemingly important, but it's just an update. It's just an update on what's kind of been going on with me. For those who don't know, but for those who do know, because if my life were anything like the Truman Show, um, those challenges come up. But I try not to I'm not perfect at it, but I tend to try to look at situations um from a silver lining perspective, like, okay, what's the learning thing here? And I'm like, all right, yeah, sure, it might be annoying that, Angie threw up or whatever, but what's most important is that she's feeling good and she's feeling better. That's the most important thing. And then not only that, but like, I feel like traveling with a cat is kind of like mom life. It's like, okay, when your baby kind of throws up and it gets a little messy, but you still love your baby, you know? Um, and you know, it's irritating a little bit, but whatever, dealing with like your kids like pooping and such, but it's a part of the life, right? So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of like my take on it. But anyway, I did get on here because I wanted to say something specific. Um, and first of all, I just want to like speak from a space of gratitude to the people who follow, like all my followers and subscribers, and the people who tune into the live streams, regardless of which platform you tune into from. And the people who like really understand where I'm coming from and understand um my expression and when I speak and when I write or when I like just express myself and like understand where what I'm trying to say and what I do say, regardless of how it's said. Because like as a black woman, we often learn to have to code switch. Um, you know, there's spaces where we can just say it how we say it, and then there's spaces where we have to, like, um have a reformed version of how we speak. But regardless of how it's said, I'm grateful for the people who understand what I'm trying to say. Even if you don't agree with me, but understanding and comprehending where I'm coming from and understanding my heart. And yeah, I'm very grateful to you humans out there. Um, and I had to remind myself of that there are people who get it. Because sometimes when you're going through the day to day, things in life, and you have like interactions with people, some of it positive, some of it can be challenging. Sometimes you could forget, like, what's really real out there. Um, and, I know that even when like certain challenges come up or certain things come up or narratives or things where it's like, oh, we're going to highlight these things, I have to remind myself that I've come a long way from a point in time where it felt like no one was supporting me, and I was going through like the worst challenges in life, and I had nobody like to lean on. And the people who I was trying to like prove myself to, like my friends and family, and I was trying to show my love for them, and like show up for like events and family gatherings and such, and just for it to be like shenanigans, like, it I had to learn a lot to just like really focus on the people who are rock with you and who really support you, and who hear you and understand you and believe in you. Um and and like I said, at one point it felt like that was nobody. It felt like nobody believed in me. And you know, and to be in a space sometimes where I deal with like challenges where, I come across some folks who, um, oppose me or think of me based on old narratives or whatever. Like sometimes it could be bothering. Because my thing is, it's not that I care about what people think about me. I just care when people think the wrong thing of me, and where I'm misunderstood. Because I'm like, you ain't gotta like me. You ain't gotta be my best friend. You ain't gotta be my biggest supporter. But at least like when you think of me from a stance of like truth. And think of me from like and really just understand like where I'm coming from and who I am and how I show up in the world just based on like my character and and again you don't have to like it, but just like just how I've shown up in the world despite the things that have been placed against me. And and I get frustrated when people don't understand or get it. But again, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you to the people who do get it and understand and hear these live streams and hear what I try to say and still believe me, still hold space in their hearts to sympathize and empathize with me, to still use their platforms or their voice or their content or their art to give little nuggets of help and support. Y'all don't understand how much that means to me. Um, it means the world to me, and I'm so grateful to y'all. Um, for real. Because, like I said, in these last few years, like it's been a lot on my own. And I've learned to live alone. Like I've learned to like be my only supporter and be okay with it. And to know like, all right, even if my legacy or my life story is one way, I know God knows me. I know how I live my life and how I've lived my life and how I do my best to show up in this world. And I know God knows my heart and He knows my soul more than anybody. Even if there's aspects to my soul that I haven't even learned to navigate yet. Um, but and I just had to be okay with it. But I know that today I'm living in a day and age. It's funny because like one of the things that's kind of like pushed me through some of the tougher seasons in my life was like affirmations and prayer. And I would just like, even if my affirmations seemed crazy, like it just seemed so far fetched from what my reality looked like, I would just like challenge myself to say it anyway. Like I'm loved, I'm respected, I'm protected. There's people who support me, there's allies. Um, you know, I'm a woman of integrity. Um, I'm smart. Like just different things that I didn't feel at the time, even though I knew like, but when people highlight so much negative about you or just negative situations in your life, sometimes you find it hard to believe. Like I know I'm a woman of integrity. And I know I may have had a season where like, I may have made a mistake or had like a poor judgment in the situation, and my actions might not have been the most dignified at the time. But that doesn't mean that that erases all integrity out of my life. I feel like if I work at it and I recognize those things and I have the self awareness to say, okay, I want to change for the better and do, then yeah, I can confidently say I'm a woman of integrity. And there was point in time in life where it was hard because people kept bringing up mistakes and bringing up, oh, well, you messed up over here and you did this here and you messed up with that person in this relationship. But and through those moments, I would still like tell myself and try to grill into my own mind, I'm a woman of integrity. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of support. You know, there are people who support me. I have loving friends and family. um the network that I build for myself is positive. There are spaces that appreciate what I have to offer. There are safe spaces for me. There are people who are safe for me. There's people who love and appreciate me for who I am, despite my story, despite all the negative things that could be said about me, despite all the embarrassing things and the moments that can be made fun of. There's people who understand me, who support me, who are allies, who want to see me win, who help me win, you know? And I would say these things to myself like every day or every other day or as often as I remember to. And slowly but surely those things were manifesting in my life. And even though like I felt ridiculous saying it because my life ain't looked like that at the time, you know, it's interesting to see like me get to a point where I'm living in a reality where a lot of those affirmations, were manifesting and becoming true. Especially, certain affirmations where I would say like, you know, I changed the narrative around my life. You know, I have like the biggest comeback in my life. I changed the narrative. I claimed the narrative of who I am. And and those who may have opposed me or attacked me or were against me will transmute into friends, allies, supporters, believers, or just people who see me in a different light. And anybody else that continues to oppose me is either proven wrong or, you know, are just out of my life. And again, those affirmations felt so crazy saying it in those when I wrote it. But it's kind of like something that I see people talk about when it comes to like manifestation and stuff, like scripting what you want out of your life. Even though I'm not sure if that's what that technique is, maybe it is a little bit, but it was ultimately me stating what I wanted my life to look like. Even if like it seemed far fetched or it didn't look like my reality could be that, and it didn't feel like it at the time, but I would say those things. And, you know, again, when it felt like I had nobody and everybody was against me, and even simple tasks like grocery shopping was like, it took a toll. And I'm not saying it's like 100% like better now, but it is in a way, not 100%, but it is better, because like there's people who try to help me. There's people who believe me. There's people who, even if you feel a way or not, that just let me be and just let me do my thing and leave me alone. And there's people who, you know, see the best in me and really sees my heart and how I really try to show up for in the world and show up as my best self, and try to be a light and be a child of God and pray to God as much as I can, and try to pray for other people. And I don't always get it right. There's times where the frustration of my situation gets the best of me and I act out of rage and I rant and I like vent and stuff like that, even though, you know, there's microwavable um influences that benefit off of me ranting and raving. However, even at my worst, I'm so grateful for the people who still choose to see the best in me. And he saw the best in me when everyone else around can only see the worst in me. The best, the best, the best, the best. He saw the best, the best, the best, the best in me. Anyway, shout out to Marvin Sapp. I know they was trying to go in on him. Close the doors. Close the doors. But we're not gonna act like that song ain't what it is. Um, but I mean, if you want to help a girl out, this is my Cash App right here. I regardless of what platform you're watching on, it don't hurt to help a girl out and donate. I could use a few coins myself, actually, because Lord knows when I got it, I try to give and help out where I can. So I'm getting better about receiving help wherever it is. So if you're willing to, I'm grateful in advance. This is my Cash App right here. So thank you for the blessings in advance. Um, yeah, but anyway, yeah, I'm just so grateful for the people who get it and who understand and who don't participate in the shenanigans, but do what they can to like help out and really just try to be understanding to my plight and my circumstance, and rather than be a hindrance in my life, choose to be a solution, a aid, a help, encouragement, and empowerment. I'm so grateful for that. And I really just wanted to highlight that more than anything. Um, because it's easy to be upset about the frustrating things. But something that I realized earlier today, I came to this revelation that you know, the most freeing thing about being criticized and judged when like all the worst things could be said about you, is like all the worst things are already said about you. So I mean, the storyline isn't it's I mean, you already said the worst things, and going forward, the only thing that can really change is me being in a space where I can tell my truth and tell my side of my story and express myself. And, people can still believe what was already said or be open minded enough to hear what I'm saying. And not only that, but as time goes on, less and less people believe the worst thing because now I have the standpoint to say my side and tell my story and share my narrative, you know? And I understand that some people might not like that. And some people might be a little frustrated by that, and are scraping by to, you know, get ahead and put their narratives out there and say all the worst things about Nerisse. But it's like, what more can you say that's already been said? It's already out there. I have nothing to hide. All the embarrassing stories and, you know, oh, I had this experience with Nerisse, like all of that's already there. It's already said. The only difference now is slowly but surely picking away at the truth and picking away at things that's been known prior to things happening due to, you know, certain powers that be out there. Um, and and really addressing the real problems. Because honestly, a lot of the stuff that people get caught up about is really side quest stories and just like made up scenarios to distract from what's really important and the actual storyline. One, for the fact that in my own life, I am the main character, um, respectfully. But, you know, and like I feel like there's more important questions to talk about. Like, I don't know, the weather. Like, I don't know. I just feel like, just how weather changes in seasons as Earth rotates or other things happening on Earth that influence that. I don't know. I feel like that's a more interesting conversation. I think that's a more interesting, I have a lot more questions about that than the drama in my life because apparently, the Earth and the sun has been here longer than me as Nerisse in this particular vessel. So any type of drama that happens in this particular lifetime feels obsolete compared to the beautiful things that happen on Earth, like the sun shining and a sunset and, and the rain and thunder, you know, or just, I don't know, conversations around spirituality and religion and what's really real in this physical reality. And I don't know. I just feel like that's the more important conversation that we keep getting distracted from. And I'm not saying that like certain issues aren't important to talk about, but if we're going to talk about it, let's talk about it from a space of truth. But if we're not going to do that, then let's talk about the more important things. Because like there are actual issues in the world with people who are actually um in harm's way and who actually have like trauma and and should speak to those things and should have healing for those things, and I advocate for that. you know and even like I said in my last live stream where I talked about a certain issue that happened in my family in my childhood, you know it's not that I like denied those situations from happening. I just didn't know I was the one being blamed for it. That's all I'm saying. But despite that, I think there are people with actual stories that should, you know, get the healing and the support and the justice that's deserved in that way. Now, like I said, I feel like there's more important things. I have bigger questions about, certain things that happen in this space. on earth. And I feel like in asking those questions, then that's really the truth and the clarity of what drama or issues that I've had that we can talk about over the years of like, oh, but you said this, oh, but you did this, this, and that. Like, okay, fine. That's surface level. But I feel like I said, there's actual valid questions about like the way of the world, that I feel like are a little bit more and urgent and important. Yeah. So there's that. Um, but at the same time, again, I'm just really grateful for the people who hold space to like listen to what I have to say and hear my story and hear my experiences. And even at my, like I said, in my worst moments, still see the best in me, still believe in me, still support me, even if you disagree with, certain actions or whatever. I can appreciate people holding space to still um support me. It's kind of like that situation where like this is like hypothetical. Well, not hypothetical because I've actually lived this. Where like like say you have a friend and you don't really care for the person that your friend is seeing or whatever, but you still care for you still like your friend. And he's like something that a friend of mine would say is like, "Girl, if you like it, I love it." But she don't like it. She don't like it or love it, but she likes and loves me, and I respect that. Um, but I am just grateful. I'm just grateful for like all the support out there, and oh yeah, and that can get to a whole nother conversation. I'm not about to get into that right now. Just because like okay, I'll just briefly say this, as it pertains to like I've said, I think I've said this in like a live stream before. Yeah, several live streams where like being in a space where like, okay, people in support of you are kind of like not necessarily beefing, but at odds. There might be some instances that it might pertain to beef. My whole thing is like, I'm grateful that there's even people who support me and even believe in me and even believe my perspective enough to like care to be like, girl, you know, girl, I can tell you, Ben, you know, I'm grateful that that's even a concern. Sorry, y'all, I'm like parked in front of the sun here. Um, so the lighting is a little bit, um, just a little something. I'm gonna try to sit in the light here, but but yeah. So okay, my whole thing is like, as it pertains to like, again, grateful to even have problems when it comes to like discourse amongst people like that care to like warn and support me. I'm grateful that even there's even space for that because yeah, um at one point there was nobody warning or supporting me. So yeah, I'm grateful for that. My only thing is like in certain instances where like um some people, okay, I was watching Michelle Obama and her brother Craig Robinson, I think is his last name. I'm sorry if I said the last name wrong. I apologize. Um, I'll be trying to get the names right. Um, but they're IMO podcast, in my opinion, I think is what that stands for. I was watching an episode with them and Angie Martinez, and it was a really good episode. Um, and they were talking about like parenting and whatnot. And Michelle Obama talked about this one situation where I think Sasha, where she was like, you know, I think it was about like your child and their friendships, right? And so I think she was like really young at this point, and her daughter would tell her about this one friend, and she was like, "Oh, she was, caught up in this mess and this and that or whatever." And then Michelle Obama was talking to her daughter, and she was like, "Well, you keep telling me about this girl. Why is this person your friend?" And her daughter was like, "Well, remember when you know I didn't have any friends? This person was my first friend, and and they was nice to me, and helped me out in these situations and whatnot. So, and just because she might have like these flaws or whatever the case may be, or little issues here and there, that doesn't mean I don't show up for a friend of mine because they were there for me. And then Michelle Obama was like, "Oh, okay, all right, you gotta eat that." And I think she might have been like, I don't know, she was saying she was 3 years old or she was in the third grade, something like that. But she was young. And basically she respected her daughter's assessment on why she decided to be friends with this person, even though, she didn't really understand it at the time. Um and and the fact that she was able to, have that reasoning at such a young age. And she said, like, through the years is they didn't really like, stay in contact or anything like that. But she respected the stance. And he was like, "Yeah, back when I ain't have no friends, this person showed up for me and helped me out and was there for me. And yeah, sure, they might be getting into some shenanigans or whatever, but at the same time it's like and basically I feel like it was a lesson of loyalty, really, more than anything. Um and I be feeling like that. I be feeling like that. And my whole thing is like I think I'm like I would like get more into detail um in a written format. I don't know. Maybe I need to start a Substack or something like that. I don't know. I keep hearing about this Substack thing, and I don't know. Maybe that might be the platform for me because I'm realizing that I'm a stronger writer and than I think I am. Mainly because like I know like my spelling is not the best because I've been like out of school and whatnot. And with technology and autocorrect, like it enables you to not be in as on top of your spelling, essentially. And but I still feel like I'm a really eloquent writer. And I mean, hence me writing songs. But like songs and writing like thoughts are different. And I don't know. I'm realizing that writing is a good platform for me to express myself. And I enjoy the process a little bit. Like just like crafting words to relay a message. And it's not that I can't speak it. I think for me speaking, like again, kind of like what I was saying about like the whole switching thing. Like when I'm like in a world, in a reality, if my life were not like the Truman Show, um, but when I'm by myself, I talk to myself like a homegirl, you know. But when I'm like live streaming or sometimes posting, when I'm posting, I'm a little bit more on like TikTok and stuff. I'm a little bit more like goofy and whatnot. But on like lives, I can talk about anything. Usually it's a more like serious topic on here or something like that. I have a little bit more fun on TikTok, but I don't know. I just feel like writing is just an easier way for me to express myself. So I think when it comes to like a particular perspective and opinion or that I have, I'm gonna just write it out and just let y'all, decipher it that way. Um, but essentially, you know, I'll just say this in a hypothetical stance, right? As a woman, sometimes, there's certain situations where people are like, you know, regardless of who it is, women should stick together and sisterhood and all these things. And I love that. under normal circumstances, I'm very much here for sisterhood and women coming together and supporting women. And like, there's a lot of talk, and I feel like one of the new buzzwords these days are like being a girl's girl. But I'm really a girl's girl for real. Like, and sometimes to like a fault, which is and also a testament to me and how I feel like my loyalty is. I'm loyal to a fault, and I'm trying to be better about that. Because, like I say, oftentimes I'm often in situations where I'm standing up for and defending people who be trying me. And not only that, but don't stand up and defend me the way I would defend them. And especially when I'm in situations where like I'm going through it, and certain people are like, yeah, like not negating other people's experiences. Like, say other people might be going through things too, but I'm like, what you going through ain't nothing like what I'm going through. However, it's like irritating for me when I feel like there's like this pressure for me to like have to say something or take a stance on certain issues, when it's like, y'all see what my life is looking like right now. I need to worry about me. Like, I can't be Captain Save a Hoe when my life be looking like it's in shambles. And I'm not talking about anybody in particular. I'm just saying in general, like, even if we talk about politics, like, like we want to talk about like immigration and what's happening with ICE and all these things. And it's like, I have perspectives and opinions about those things, but it's like at the same time, like I'm trying to get my life together, you know? And I guess like in a way, like everybody can say that, you know? And yeah, like it's just like it's crazy. It's crazy. Imagine like being famous and broke and down to your last dollar, and then like somehow some way people are expecting you to like speak out against like you know circumstances that's happening in Israel. And it's like, okay, yeah, what's happening in with Israel and Iran and Palestine is crazy. And I don't, there's a lot how I feel about it, and I have spoken up about those things. But at the same time, it's like I'm trying to figure out how I'm eating. Like feeding myself. And I got Angie with me. Angie's my fur baby. I'm over here like a single fur mom trying to figure out how I'm going to feed my babies. And and not that I don't care about what's happening in Palestine, but it's like I don't have time to care about what's happening in Palestine when I'm literally trying to figure out how I'm feeding myself. You know? Um so like and I don't mean to sound insensitive, because and I get a lot of people probably feel that way, when it comes to like wanting to do community work and wanting to like lean into that activism space. But it's like, look, we all, and I get it, we all struggling, and there are certain times where it's like, all right, we got to band together and fight this fight. But I'm just like, let I'm just trying to get to a space where I can just take a shower and not have to worry about motherfuckers banging and bopping outside the fucking bathrooms. I'm just trying to get to a space and time where I can go grocery shopping and I don't have to worry about people touching all on my fucking food. You know? That's all I'm saying. Um, but I specifically, okay, there was a specific situation that I wanted to briefly say. Like, okay, I feel like there is a lot of hold on, because I feel like witches out here is trying to silence me, but I got things to say, and I'm gonna say it. Because if you know anything about me, is I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna tell the truth, and straight no chaser. Whether you like it or not, if it makes you uncomfortable, oh well. All right. First off, I'm just gonna write it. I'm gonna write it. I'm gonna write it. But I'll just give y'all a quick synopsis on in terms of the topic. You know, it's basically going to be my perspective and my own experience when it comes to the idea of like decentering men and being a girl's girl. That's the topic. I'll get around to getting into the specifics later because I feel like it's probably better that I write it than say it. So I'm just gonna write it out, and then y'all could just, you know, take it for whatever y'all want it to be. Um, but yeah, okay. I'm trying to like, I like the sun is shining, shining on me. Look at my little gremlin right here. But yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much what I was about to say. Um, you know, well, I already said what I needed to say. Um, and yeah, so I gotta get my day going. Um, about to get into the shower and deal with the shenanigans that I got to deal with because people are ridiculous and yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But again, I really just wanted to highlight the positives because I know, like, even if, like, it's kind of like that thing where, like, say if you're like under attack or whatever, that chances are you're meeting that resistance because you're pushing forward and you're succeeding somewhere. Usually, when you're succeeding and you're making a shift, that's when the opposition comes up against you. And like I said, I know that that's what other people are told to be like concerned about, but my whole thing is like, who's giving these orders? And what's the storyline beyond these lifetimes? Because it's easy to get caught up in the stuff that we deal with in our own realities here and now, but there's a lot more in the cosmos, in the skies, in the sun, in the moon that's happening that I feel like are more important conversations. Yeah. But again, thank you to the people who really be, supporting and who rock with me and, and just believe me and believe in me. And, because regardless of the tug and war of like narratives, um, you know, like I said, the worst has already been said about me. And unfortunately I still deal with that, but I'm grateful that more and more people are believing me and more people are willing to at least hear my perspective and understand, what all is going on. And not only that, but let's keep it a buck. There's people who, again, everybody knows how the story goes. Yeah, if everybody know how the story go, then and I'm not saying that that song is in relation to what's going on in my life. It just so happens that that lyrics just fit what I was gonna say. But you know, like I said, I think it's interesting that certain stories are being told decades in advance prior to it actually happening. If you want to believe in like prophecies and such. Um, but okay, and I'm gonna end it on this note. I'm gonna end it on this note. I'm gonna end it on this note. And I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it how it is. I think it's interesting how, like, for one, I'm bisexual. I guess I would I guess if we want to include terminology, I would say pansexual because for me, like, I'm not really concerned about like how someone identifies as gender and whatnot. I've never dated a trans person, but I'm not like opposed or like it's not like I'm against dating someone trans. Like I'm like I just love people for who and how they are. I've talked to a guy that he might not have identified as bi, but he had some bi experiences. And I didn't judge him for it, because I'm like, how could I? I'm bi. I mean, there was a part of me because it was a new experience that kind of like felt like that a little bit of that double standard where it's like, it's sexy and cool for a woman to be bisexual, but it's like, it's gay if it's a guy, right? Or something like that. Um, but at the same time, like I was kind of breaking out of that stigma because either way, like when we were hanging out, he was a cool person or whatever. It was brief. It wasn't like a serious relationship or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, it was whatever. I'm basically like I was breaking out of that like whole mental thing of, that double standard of like men that are bisexual are just solely gay and can't date women or whatever the case may be, right? Because I feel like that's a false um mentality. Is just, and again, like if women can do it, why not men? Right? Okay, cool. But at the same time, when I think about my own experience in my life, right, and just like being bisexual, um, I wonder like if we want to go into the whole conversation about like religion, um, because especially as someone that's Christian, and you can reference certain things that are said in the Bible when it comes to like being gay or being homo, like being, and it's like rebuking of homosexuality. But I wonder, because God knows who we are before we get here, right? God knows who we are. He knows our experience. He knows, the beautiful things are like, are less than desirable things. This is going to sound like a stupid question for a reason. Do you think God knows what our sexual orientation is going to be before we get here? You know, I'm really genuinely asking. I'm genuinely asking. Just because I know there's a lot of conversation around like, parents, like say if you have like gay parents and they're raising a kid and maybe that influencing the kid into like being gay or something like that. But I wonder like God would know that if, you know, we would be on some type of spectrum of like sexual orientation, you know? And I wonder if that's a known thing in our storyline before we get here. I have a question. That's my question. That's my question about religion a little bit, you know? Because my thing is like, okay, if God knew that we would there would be gay people here or people with fluid sexual orientations, regardless of how it could have been influenced or whatever the case may be, you know, and we're children of God, why would God make us gay? You know, why would he do that? Especially if it's in the Bible, in the Bible, on the Bible, like why would God put us in a situation where like that very expression would be like a concern for safety? You know what I mean? Like when I like when I just really think about it, like when I like, count the experiences and situations and circumstances, and just like certain like spaces and places in the world intentionally, or maybe not even, maybe just like subconsciously. Um, God knew these things would be in place. It's in the Bible, right? So why would God make us like that? You know, it makes me think of this uh poster from the Million Man March. And you know what's funny about that poster? I've never seen anybody else with that poster. But I mean, I did see it online somewhere, but like one person. But whatever. There's a Million Man March poster. It has like these wordings at the bottom. Um, but something in particular was like talking about the union of a man and a woman. Um, and the message was to men because it was the Man March, but it was specifically talking about women. Like the woman is the producer of your life. And I was like, okay, I thought that was an interesting way to word that. Um, and mind you, this poster was, I think the actual event happened in '95 or something like that, right? So I'm just like, and I don't know, it just had like such a like an influence over my life. And but I always wonder like, oh, why not like, like your spouse or something like that, something more general, just in case for people who might be gay, you know, or bi or whatever. Um, you know, and then I wonder like, can you really like, okay, I know it feels like a little all over the place, but my two main things is like, okay, if people are so caught up in the things in the world, like especially with it being Pride Month, of influencing kids to be gay, um, why would God make us like that? You know, if God didn't love us, and and I know it's like and I know it's in the Bible or whatever, but but at the same time, shout out to like the bishops and the priest. I know I'm probably not saying the correct terminology, but leaders of the church who hold space for people regardless of sexual orientation. Because I think that's important for people who want to have a faith in God, um, and in Christ. So one thing, you know, like okay, if y'all believe the whole thing of like you can influence somebody to be gay, um, okay, but like maybe that was encoded in our DNA to begin with, right? I wonder, like when God writes the script of our lives, was that in there? Was that in there? Was that in the script? Because there are some things that I can see and understand being influences, especially when you look at the Bible, um intentionally, you know that can make someone that is fluid or whatever the case may be question like their faith because of what's in the Bible, and how that might have effect on them based on what their sexuality is. um yeah, I just wonder if that's in this, like in I don't know what part of God's storyline was that, and like how, yeah. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. It's just I'm just bringing that up for curiosity. And just, just something to think about, and just like, to question, you know, um, as it pertains to religion, and just like different things that, like, is said to be influences, and like what's really an influence, or what's um like prophesized over our lives. Yeah. Like, is it influence or prophecy? That's what I want to know. Because it seems like, there's a lot of prophecy that like knows word for word, bar for bar, different things that happen in our lives. So it's like, is that a prophecy as well? You know, to challenge what's said in the Bible, to hold space for people that are, you know, gay or fluid or bi, or, however. Um, is that a part of prophecy? And what's really the true influence? Because I mean, I do think it can be influenced. I think there's a lot of things, like if you have a whole environment and objects and symbols and things that, you know, I think it's more so like putting you in the mindset to like be accepting, rather than trying to make you love someone, or make you gay. You know what I mean? I don't know. I hope that made sense. I probably said a lot, and I don't know. I just, and I'm not saying that from a space of being judgmental. I'm genuinely saying that out of curiosity, because again, I feel like sometimes it's easy for us to point the fingers at one another and like be judgmental, but we're not really like pointing. We're not asking the bigger questions and looking at the bigger, you know, influences, and the bigger, conversation around like prophecy, and, you know, what's expected from us as people when we follow religion, you know? Yeah. I feel like it's too much of pointing the fingers at like the pawns on the board, and not really like asking the question of the hands that are moving the pieces, you know, and saying, you're going to be the white piece on the board. You're going to be the black pawn. You're going to be the white pawn. And then you're on the board looking at the pawn like, you know, you're a black pawn. You captured me. But who was making the plays? I don't know. Just a question. Just a question. If you want to think about it like that, because I often think about my own situation, like me as a bisexual woman. I'm like, I wonder if there was things around my environment and in my life that influenced me to be that way. Um, and if it could happen to me, could it happen to someone else? Grocery shopping, food for thought. All right, y'all. That's the live stream. Much love. I hope y'all have a blessed day. Continue to pray for me. I'm gonna pray y'all. May we all do well in the world, and be in alignment regardless of your faith and your spiritual background. Um, and yeah, I send my blessings to you all, and I hope you all have a blessed day. And I'm gonna have a blessed day. Angie's gonna have a blessed day. She's chilling right now. Oh, she just looked up like, "Hmm." Yeah, I'm talking about you, honey. I'm talking about you. With love, of course. With love. Even if you have an attitude with me, it's okay. I mean, you be getting on my nerves. Getting on my nerves for sure. But I try my best to come from a space of love. But there's but so much love you can have when people be trying you. I really be trying to be understanding. And I think, if there's anything that you want to say about me, or like hate on me about, where you can give me grace, is the fact that regardless, I try my best to be compassionate for the people who don't be compassionate towards me. I be defending folks. I be trying to protect people. And I do try to be considerate of folks because a lot of times I really don't want to be in the space of being like being combative with people because I feel like again there's bigger questions to ask. There's people who are in higher positions to actually point the finger at. But when the finger is pointed at me, I guess I gotta rise to the occasion and have maturity to navigate the questions where it should be. Um, yeah. Much love, though. Much love. But at the same time, I don't want to be fooling with certain people. I got more important questions to be asking. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Just food for thought. Food for thought, especially around the whole like religion and sexuality thing. I mean, hey, do you think it's an influence type of a situation? I don't know. I don't know. Y'all can have that discourse amongst yourselves. But in the meantime, I'm gonna do what I do. Work on the things that I need to work on. Like I said, or be my making sure me and Angie are good. She back there doing something, you know. Yes, it's getting a little hot. But yeah, I don't know, just something to think about. But yeah, and again, I be trying to be compassionate. I try to be understanding, but it's but so much y'all could do to keep messing with me without me like wilding out and raging. But that's not my default. My default is really trying my best to be understanding of people, even if I don't agree. Even if I don't agree with a lot of what people be doing, I really try my best to be understanding and loving, you know? And I think for that, like me or not, I deserve grace for that. And I'm going to say that. I deserve some grace for my compassion alone, like me or not. Um, but yeah, like that's a valid question to ask. Is that in the storyline? Is that in the books? Is that in the script? I want to know. I think we all should know. We should know. Anyway, all right. Much love to y'all. I'll see y'all later. Actually, we're gonna conclude with a prayer because we need to bring that back into the fold of it all. All right. Simply, Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me on a path of righteousness for his name's sake. And although I walk through the valley in the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff comfort me, and God prepares a table for me in the presence of my adversaries. Clock it. And anoints my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So it is, so it will be. Gratitude for what's been. Amen. Amen. Ashe. That's just how I like to end my prayers. You can end it however you want to conclude your prayers. But that's just my style. Anyway, much love to y'all. Have a blessed day, and I will see y'all later.